Welcome back, fellow Bravo critics. Arielle and Ricky here for the second episode of our RHONY rewatch. So did everybody do your homework? Everybody watch?
I hope so, because season 2 got really good. I think that the addition of Kelly really upped the game for this season. We got a whole different level of drama. We got a whole different level of exposure to like the society in New York, like that's, kind of helped cement this whole, she had it all. She was like a model. She did her fashion week. She works for magazines. She's an equestrian. She has her Hamptons house. Like,
I feel like she
Kelly
gave us
like a total New Yorker.
Right. I feel like she gave us a different view of New York and like a different side of the socialite, like how Bethany said, she's like, Kelly is a real socialite in New York City, not a wannabe socialite. So it was kind of cool to see her kind of pop in and out of all of her events and brushing shoulders with all of the celebs and getting a peek into, the fabulous life of Kelly Kalora and Ben Simone. So as she says, it's Kelly time.
Yeah, I love Kelly time. I'm not sure if the other women always loved Kelly time, but I was sort of living for it.
Yeah,
it just created some like petty drama a lot of times. Like,
yeah, I don't know if they understood Kelly time some of the time, but that's what I think made it so great, because Kelly's like, I live in my own world. This is like, there's no jealousy here. There's no hate. It's just like all happiness. And if you can't be part of that vibe, then see ya. As she's like off.
GBO, good vibes only.
Yeah. So, but I loved we got to have a lot from Jill this season too. Like, Jill is my girl. So I feel like we got to get a good view of like another layer of Jill on season 2, a little bit more of a deeper, to the chest kind of view. Do you get what I'm saying? Like you got to see her mom more, her relationship with her daughter, like when her maid quit and she was like, I don't do good with change. Like, I'm going to cry right now. Like I felt for her. Allie went away to Paris for a little bit. She's like, you need sneakers. Were you wearing sneakers?
Yeah. And she wasn't, and she fell.
I know. And then I love how in that moment she goes, but were you wearing sneakers, Allie? Like she couldn't refrain from just asking to be like, I told you if you were wearing sneakers, you would have been okay.
It's just such a Jill thing. Like Jill is such a mom. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like she'd be a perfect, that's what it felt like she was on RHONY, but like I feel like she'd also be the perfect like TV mom.
She's nurturing.
She cares, but she like, she's always like asking you those sort of questions, like, well, you weren't wearing the tennis shoes, were you?
Exactly. And you know what? But you see it. So we got to see her mom, Gloria, a little bit more this season too. And I love Gloria. Like I have a fabulous mom, so I'm lucky, but for Bethany, like, I think that's great. Like I would have embraced that. I embraced it. I cried watching Gloria and Bethany, just kind of interacting and just seeing how Gloria was with Jill, just being like, you're guilting me, honey, let me go live my life. I gotta go hang out in Florida for a little bit. I'll see you soon, but I just felt like it was a really, like, we got a warm vibe from Jill this season, outside of her craziness with Ramona and Mario and tennis. It always comes back to tennis.
Which is funny because like during the first the first half of the season, it felt like her biggest beef was with like other husbands instead of like, there were plenty of issues with some of the women too, but like she was sitting with Simon and then with Mario, like the opening of the season, like we immediately went like head first into like what was going on.
Oh, because it started with the article, right? So the season started with Simon making a comment about Jill, that she's from Long Island, and it shows, and it got printed on something. And then Jill takes a jab right back at Simon. And what did she say? He drinks too much. What else did she say?
Too much.
Yeah. So, and that was a good time.
And then like how she was like, I'm sorry, I just got like, they go like, and they are made up within the first few episodes, but she's like, I'm sorry, I just took it a little too far. You took it too far. I hit back, and there was like, okay.
But you know what? She called him, right? So like she told her mom, like, I called to like say I was sorry, but then they called her jealous. then that's when Alex said that Jill was jealous, and Jill's like, okay, yeah, I'm jealous. That's what it is. You've got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so, I mean, they did, you're right. They put a nice little bow on top of that and kept it moving. Wait, what are you drinking right now, Ricky? Because
I'm just having some Prosecco.
Okay. See, I'm drinking a little mocktail today. I'm doing just a little bit of sparkling with some OJ and some berries. So cheers.
Yeah. I mean, just for everyone listening, this is pretty early in the day. So I probably shouldn't be drinking it, but what are we doing here?
I feel like I'm like, getting a little cold. So I'm just trying to be a responsible human right now. We'll see how that goes. Talk to me in an hour. But
yeah, one of my friends likes to make cocktails and little mocktails with the emergency.
Oh yeah.
So you should try that sometime. She's gonna kill me for talking about this, but she always has them and she like dumps them into her champagne.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And like I can tell when it is. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you drinking an emergency?
That's so fun. You know what? One of the other Bravo Labs I saw on Instagram would make like vodka water with those little packets, and I like before they would go out, like pre-gaming, and I'm like, that's actually interesting. I've never tried any of those, but I should.
Everyone has their own like weird drink mixtures. Like in New Jersey, like in Real Housewives of New Jersey, they were always drinking red wine and Coke, which I always thought was so weird. But then like later on in RHONY, we're going to get Sonia drinking rosé Coke, which sounds even more wrong.
Yes. When you said that, that's right what I went to. I was like, rosé. And you know what? I don't remember Jersey people drinking the Coke. So that's interesting.
But I almost feel like I'm sort of like Luann. I've got the Prosecco, and you're like Kelly, when they went to they had a little meetup, and like it was during the day, and Kelly wasn't drinking.
Nope, she had a
Luann's
cappuccino.
like a woman of leisure, so she's like, I'll have a champagne.
And it was 3:00. I took note of the time when they met. She's like, well, it's late afternoon, almost it's cocktail hour is what the Countess said. And I was like, yes, honey, that's what I'm always about. It's cocktail hour. But
he's like, it's 5 p.m. in Switzerland, darling.
Exactly. Right. Well, okay. So with Luann, what did Luann have going on this season? Luann had a new venture.
Well, she's like fresh coming back from Switzerland in like the first episode or so.
Yes.
Which it's sort of crazy because like I feel like if you watched the season already, like you sort of already know what happens by the reunion, and that's that Luann and the Count are no longer.
Yes.
And I feel like if you're watching the show after you've already known that, you sort of start seeing like some of the cracks, like the argument about where was he during the horseback riding and stuff like that. And I feel like,
oh yeah, for Victoria's, for her equestrian type thing. What did they call that? Was it a horse race or something? Her horse showing? It was a showing, right? Yeah. Because she was pissed. Ooh, that was the first time we ever kind of saw her lose her composure. And who said that? Kelly, right? Like, or I think it was Kelly who's like, you never really see Luann upset. So the fact that she was like, where the hell are you at? Like, you missed it. Yeah. I was
just like, damn, Luann.
That was the beginning of the end that we saw, and then like, not to jump ahead too much, but to just see how defensive she got when anybody referenced her husband at all. When her and Ramona had a few words about the Count later on in the season, and she just, anytime anybody, she's like, you don't talk about the husbands, that's a Beverly Hills reference.
She's like, your husband is twice your age.
Yeah. In front of Victoria, and Victoria's 13. She's, I don't think that Victoria would have even thought anything of it if Luann didn't kind of make something out of it. But I get it. Like,
I think that she was like, sort of judging by like the look on Victoria's face, it was sort of like, what are you freaking out about, Mom? Like, he is an old man.
Right. And then she was kind of like, I think it would have just went right over Victoria's head. But then when her mom like started acting like that, then she started being like, oh, well, this is not cool, because then her mom started getting upset, and she doesn't want to see her mom upset. And at the reunion, Luann said like, I didn't want to invite you, Ramona. and I didn't want to invite you because that was an important day to me. My dad died from cancer. I do a lot of work with the Cancer Society, and that was an important day for me. And you ruined it. You ruined it for me because you had to do that, you know? And when Ramona, like, I think she was like, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to. Like, I think there was one real moment that Ramona really wasn't trying to even be like a full blown jerk about it. She was just like stating facts.
Yeah. Like well, that's like the crazy thing about Ramona is like I feel like 95% of the time I'll give her that much. I feel like she's in her mind, she's just stating what she sees as a factual thing, and you shouldn't get upset about it. I mean, we all know she would if you brought it up the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because in this reunion, we're seeing her, sort of jabbing at Luann's marriage, but then, we don't want to talk about Ramona's marriage when that comes up later on
Right.
in further seasons.
Yep. Is it the curse? Do you believe in the curse of the reality show?
I mean, I feel like it definitely can't help. I think that there is, to an extent, the people on the reality shows start to see what fame and like a little bit of ego feels like. Because I mean, if you're just some average person, like you're probably never going to get over, I don't know, 10,000 followers on Instagram, and that's still, I think, really high. So like once you start seeing like a huge social media following coming in, and you have like 10,000 people being like, you're right, like you become like a whole different person.
Yeah.
Especially, there have to be those situations where they're like, Mario is the worst husband ever. Why are you with him? I mean, not in that situation because that's a little bit different, but you know what I mean? I feel like it definitely like starts to break up marriages a little bit because you start getting all of these other opinions in there and you're like, okay, well, if 10,000 people are telling me something's bad, then why am I
right
putting up with this?
Well, like if there's like cracks in the relationship too already, then you're kind of SOL because like who talked about that? Kyle and Cynthia on Girls Trip. They were saying like she was like, this marriage is the most important thing to me. And Cynthia's like, I've been married 6 months and there's young, hot little things sending him messages on Instagram and stuff like that. So like if you have any cracks in your relationship, I think that, we've seen it. Kyle and Mauricio have not renewed their vows. They said they never will. Did Ramona and Mario ever review? They did, right? They did. They did their
That's
20th.
coming up next season.
Yep. See, so we can discuss this in a bit more detail next episode, everybody. But what else did we have?
This was also this season of like the two books that are basically like neither person has like should have any sort of authority over either subjects. It's like we've got Simon and Alex's book about like the child rearing. That's like everyone keeps on talking about child rearing. Like it's sort of surprising the show wasn't still just called Manhattan Moms, like the way that they talk about that sort of stuff. And like, because even at the reunion, Ramona's like, do you ever discipline your children?
Yeah.
And if so, how? And like, what she wanted you to say? Like, oh yeah, I beat my children, or like, oh, I just tell them that they need to go and sit on the couch and watch TV when they're in trouble. Like, I don't know what she was really expecting Alex to say.
I mean, she could have said, I put them in timeout, or we discussed that there's consequences for actions. But she doesn't need, I don't need to explain anything to you about what I do as a mother and do with my child. So I feel like Ramona knew that she was overstepping her bounds by even saying that. And she's lucky Alex didn't jump across the couch and strangle her. Like, regardless, her kids are not well behaved. Like, let's clarify. I don't think that her children are well behaved. My kids wouldn't act like that. But I also did kind of like that Jill stood up for 1 second, was like, they were 1 and 3 when the show was filming, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. They were overtired. They didn't take a nap. Like, it was bedtime. We were trying to push through the rest of the dinner for filming.
Rambunctious boys.
They're rambunctious boys. Yeah. That's when you like excuse yourself. That's when maybe you do have to excuse yourself and you have to leave filming early. Are you allowed to do that?
I don't know.
It's like, because she was the only one.
Maybe not in an event like that, because that was like the finale dinner.
Yeah, you're right. And it was like, so also I'll say that Alex is the only one who had little kids. Like Allie.
Yeah, like
Yeah, Noel, Victoria, all of them, they're all older. They're all, and 11 up. I think Luann's son was like 10 or 11, right?
he was in like sixth grade. I don't know how old sixth graders are. And then Kelly, her kids were second and third grade, I think.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
because
what
Kelly,
ages that
no,
is.
Kelly's
Maybe
daughter's
like
10.
8 and 9.
Kelly's daughter's 10 as well. C, I think was like 10, right around. And then her other daughter, you're right, was like 7. I forgot about that. But those girls are well-behaved kids. Like,
Yeah.
I loved the way that Kelly rolled. And like, did you see the scene where they were at purse shopping with Jill, and one of Kelly's, I think the youngest one, put the bag over her head, and Kelly like
Yeah.
didn't care who was there. She's like, take that off. Like, that's not polite. You wouldn't want to do that, and she explained, if you went to a fancy purse designer's, showroom, and they showed you stuff, they wouldn't like that, right? And her daughter was like, all cute and stuff, but she was like, okay, like a kid being a kid, but the mom saying, okay, honey, there's a time and place for everything, and didn't make a huge deal out of it. But then Jill did.
Like, I would say for the most part, like Kelly is actually a pretty calm person. And I feel like one thing I want to say about Kelly is I feel like she's misunderstood. And I feel like obviously the events that happen next season just sort of go in like a whole separate direction. But watching this season back, I guess I forgot just how much like Jill, Bethany, and Luann were all sort of like fighting against Kelly at one point at the reunion.
They did kind of go at her. I did think that Jill was the most understanding. Bethany and Kelly, they just clashed. They were
They'll
not
never
going to
get
be
along.
friends. Yeah, they weren't going to be friends. They kind of knew that from the get. And
And they're both fine with that too.
I think Jill needed to like stay out of it and stop trying to, push them together. And I think that Kelly and Bethany made season 3 kind of, though, or season 2, sorry, made season 2, so I mean, it was. And also I loved Kelly brought great fashion to season 2. Like, I loved basically everything she wore, the equestrian looks, the cute little skirts with the sweaters. I mean, she is so like cool.
That's one thing about the way she dresses. Like when you like look at the other women and see the stuff they wear, you're like, wow, I can't believe this was so long ago. Fashion's changed so much, but everything Kelly was wearing was, I would say, pretty like timeless.
Yep, classic. Like, she's got that effortless, like, cool chic look about her, like where she can put on a pair of jeans and any boots and a t-shirt, and she was banging. But that's what I love, like when she was doing. So this season we got to see Kelly do a few new things. Like, she was rolling out her jewelry line at that time, and that's what she was talking about, just having pieces that you could just put on with a t-shirt and just something to make you feel good about yourself, and you know what, who better to take with her than Luann, the queen of statement necklaces. So
Right. I always wonder if Luann was jealous of that statement necklace that Jill got from Zhang Toy.
Oh, that was stunning.
Yeah.
That
I also really loved that dress that the
black and red one. The black and red one. Yes.
An amazing dress.
That was my favorite dress. When she came out, I was like, oh my gosh, that's stunning. And then she ended up wearing that to the charity event at the end. And I was like, oh, I love that she wore that. I mean, she looked beautiful.
Yeah.
She looks good in red and orange, which I would not have thought because of her hair color. But remember, her and Ramona had an entire conversation about, oh, you look great. Oh, I love orange. Orange is my favorite color. And then Jill's like, well, I wear orange all the time because it matches my hair. It's like, yeah. Oh my gosh, who wears orange more? Who does orange look better on? Ramona or Jill?
I'm sorry, that $16,000 orange handbag was not that cute to me.
No, I agree.
Not $16,000 cute.
No, I liked other bags on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I liked, like, Kelly was being logical, but that's like a bigger bag and you can use it with everything. It's like an everyday bag. So if you can afford a $16,000 everyday bag, do you?
But see, that's also sort of like why Kelly's a good friend, because she's like, oh yeah, you want the bag? Just get it. Here are all the reasons why you should get the bag. Treat yourself.
Be happy.
Like, don't we all need a friend like that when we want to go and buy something expensive? You're just like, yeah, just buy it.
Yeah.
Like, giving all the reasons why I should buy is definitely going to help me, because like in my mind, I'm already like, here are the reasons I'm going to have buyer's remorse in like 4 hours.
That's usually only when I spend over a certain amount of money or when I get like a little wild and I'm like, whoo, but that doesn't happen to me too often. I'm pretty good about not being an overspender. But hey, if I was married to Bobby who said, this is a small birthday, a $16,000 bag is a small birthday gift, I would take it. So
What did you think about all of the conversations on the topic of money about the economy and the interview that Jill did with BBC?
You know what? I thought Jill handled herself perfectly. I loved every single response. I thought that guy was really trying to get her a few times.
I think she also maybe misunderstood exactly what the interview was going to be about. Because I feel like she kept on trying to like take it in the direction of like, well, this is how like fabulous New York society is. And like, because he also asked the question about like, you look around you and don't you
feel bad?
Feel bad. And like, she was just like, she thought he was talking about like New York City as a whole. And he's like, no, I'm talking about this apartment that's like, you've got this killer view. You've obviously just had a posh makeover done.
I think that
she should not have to feel guilty. You have to really sort of understand the mentality more at that time too, I think.
Well, I also think that you shouldn't have to feel guilty for your success, and you shouldn't have to apologize to anybody for that. And had she been sitting there on her ass doing nothing to help anybody around her, then I'd be like, okay, because you need to do for others, right? If you are privileged and you are able to help people, then you should be helping people. And she is. So that to me, like that sat okay with me, because I feel like she really does like try to help, and whether it's something that, has to do with, it has a dear place to her heart, whether it's something, okay, maybe she's helping with arthritis because that affects her daughter. Well, there's still other people in the world who are affected by arthritis as well that her efforts are, helping. So I love Jill. I love Jill. Team Jill.
I think most people were still just surprised because it did feel like there was maybe a slowing down with the other housewives and some of their spending habits this season. But it felt like Jill was just like putting gasoline on the fire.
Why? Who else do you feel like?
Fucking bomb apartment, which I loved about half of the makeover. And I mean, you have to remember again, this is like 2009. So that would have been super fucking cool back then. But I didn't love the coffee table at all.
I hated Pop. And then Kelly loved it. Kelly's like, oh my God, I have the same coffee table. But hers spelt something different. And I don't remember what hers spelt. But that was so fun to me. I loved that. And then I loved when Jill took Bethany through the tour of the apartment, and Bethany just like walks through the threshold, and she's like, hold on. This is like a lot for me to take in. Like, I'm just walking through the door. Like, she couldn't even go down the hallway yet. It was just like too much. She was like having sensory overload.
I mean, like, I liked about half of it. So if half of it disappeared, I feel like it would have looked really good, but it just, I don't know. Brad's a little bit gaudy, and I feel like you're putting a lot of trust into his hands.
Yeah. And then the fact that he doesn't listen to what she says either, like she's like, he's great at what he does, but he also doesn't listen to me. So it pisses me off. And I'm like, well, that's what happens when you hire your best friend to decorate your house. I mean, there's business boundaries and there's friend boundaries, right? So it's kind of like, well, no, you're going to love this. You're going to love it, so, but he didn't I think that she liked everything after they were all said and done. And what did they go like? Over budget for sure. So
over budget. I can't remember what the number was, but definitely over budget.
Did Jill sell that house now since Bobby, she's in a new place now, right? Because her view looks her view still looks phenomenal, but her view looks different to me when I see, her stuff on social media and stuff now, and I see the view, it just looks like she's got floor to ceiling windows, and I don't think she had that on season 2, right? She didn't have floor to ceiling windows, right?
I don't recall, but I don't think it's the same apartment.
Yeah. Oh, Bobby.
Because yeah, but
I can't blame her. I would, she said, but that's what I took note of when she had already been living in there for 7 years, like, so she was ready every 7 years. She says, you want to decorate. The last time she had decorated was 7 years ago. So they had been in there for quite some time. I can't imagine she would have stayed there.
Yeah. But
Let's talk about, why don't you show everybody what you got? You got a little.
oh yeah, so the other thing that happened this season is we got Class with the Countess.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just filled with all sorts of interesting little tidbits, and we get photos, her and her, she's having a dinner party, but you get just like so many like random little breakouts. And like, did you ever see there's a special that existed on Bravo that was about Luann's past? Did you ever see that? It was about like her growing up and like being in Italy and all of that. And like there was someone in her life called Honey Child.
No.
Yeah, there's like a Honey Child, and this list is actually how to make an entrance Honey Child style. Never leave the house without thinking you might be making an entrance. You never know if you're going to run into someone, perhaps a prince. Pull yourself together before you enter a restaurant or party, whatever the size. Communicating that you are open and lively will attract others to you like bees to honey.
Oh,
like
God.
it's such random tidbits. I mean, there's a whole section on eyebrows.
And so that was something that stuck out with me when Victoria and her went shopping, and she was like, oh, this hat makes my eyebrows look too big. Victoria says that. And then Luann's like, no, you have the perfect eyebrows. People would kill for your eyebrows. And now it's so funny because big eyebrows are really in right now. So it's just so funny to see how the styles changed. I'm like, okay, well, here we are in 2022, and now the big eyebrows are in. Let's see what another 5 years, and they'll probably be back to stick thin again,
Exactly.
Oh, wait. So we got to see Luann. We got to see Aston's first birthday. Aston's not with us anymore, but we loved Aston. He was the cutest, and they had his little first birthday. So I like love seeing that. I don't know why.
It's like at the same time they had so much trouble with the other pets. Like they had a hamster die and a fish die.
Yeah.
And then they also I kept on like looking out for them anytime they'd be at Luann's house, but the sea monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have sea monkeys? I had some that were like exactly like the ones they were showing.
No, I never had sea monkeys, but I laughed at that. She's like, well, let's see how this goes then. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, and then Rosanna,
then, like later on in the season, when Victoria comes home, like she's like messing around with it on the table and just kind of like swishing it around. And I'm guessing they didn't make it. It's just still there.
Yeah. Well, and then Rosanna, like she came back looking all good with her, lost some weight, had her makeup on. She had her boyfriend. Her boyfriend, she saw once a week. I loved how her and Bethany would like cook together, right? Bethany did a cooking lesson with her. And then that she was like asking her every single question. I feel like Bethany took on Jill's persona at that dinner table because she asked Rosanna like 8 million questions. And, that's how Jill rolls. Like, wait, when Kelly got introduced, Jill is talking with Bethany and she's like, is she married? Does she want to date? Is she looking for a relationship? Is she a mom? What's she do? Is she, you know what I mean? Like and she's like, I don't know what her favorite color is. Like, I don't know. I just know of her, it's just like classic Jill. I love it.
I know those are the moments that you sort of just love with her.
I know. And then we saw Jill and Bethany fight for the first time. That like broke my heart.
This season was really good for them though, because we got to see their relationship getting really strong at the beginning. Like we saw a different level than what we saw previously, the hanging out in bed, always together in the Hamptons. Jill really took Bethany in after like her breaking up and like just different things that Bethany was going through.
And Bethany got close with Allie too. Like Bethany had she was talking with Gloria, her and Allie tried to, spend some good quality time together. And I feel like they really connected, and it was definitely, and you know what, side note, I loved the scene with Jill and Allie when they had the sex talk. That was so good to me though, to see just like how like a comfortable relationship they have with each other. I just it was all too good. It was just a great season. I love that the season had double the episodes that season one did. Like Bravo saw what these ladies were bringing and it was all goodness and they doubled up on the season. It was great.
Yeah, and I feel like Allie is one of those house kids that's like underappreciated because I don't know if you caught it or not, but when they're at one of those charity meetings, um, Ramona's talking about her skincare and like she's trying not to laugh, and I feel like it's because her mom like said like you need to ask her like when she came up with this, but she's like, since when are you doing skincare?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, she is totally saying something that someone told her to say,
See, I
and she
didn't
can not help but laugh at it.
Oh my God, I didn't think that Jill told her to say that. I just think that I viewed that as Allie being her mother's daughter in that moment and just thinking that was funny. Like, when did this come about, Ramona? Like, how long have you been working on this? And I felt like Jill deep inside was like, yes, Allie. Like, because how would they know that she was going to bring that up, right? Who knows? Jill's got all this going probably in her head. They may have had a whole typed out itinerary prior to.
Yeah.
Here's possible topics that could be discussed.
I could see it going both ways, honestly.
Well, and I loved on the second charity meeting how Jill was like, well, I thought that we were going to socialize a little bit more, but they just like wanted to get right to business. So it's like, okay, fine. Jill just like loves the social hour.
Yeah. And it's like, this is supposed to be a charity, not just like a women who lunch.
Yes, exactly. I thought that, and then so we got to see the whole charity drama with the gals. Kelly and Bethany's issues transpired a bit more at that table. They ignited a bit, shall we say. And then you have also the drama that went on after the fact, actually at the charity, then because then you have at the setup, right? Ramona starting a fire, with the whole
with the
signage.
checks.
Oh, and then the checks with her and Jill. It was like, okay, everybody, you guys watched. I hope you watched every episode because it was golden. Like these women just are angels. They're just angels from above given to us from Andy Cohen because you cannot make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. It's like,
Let's
okay,
just bring back that exact cast and
it
do
was so
next season.
good. It was such a good, this was like the glory days. Like when I say it's just they just fit perfectly together. And you know what? And we'll have to talk about this at another time when it actually happens, but like how they decided to let Jill go. And I never thought that RHONY could be okay again. And then we did get some great characters that brought us so much that we loved. But I mean, okay, if you could pick your ultimate RHONY cast right now, what would it be? And I think that RHONY does better with like a mid-size cast. I don't think they do too good with large or small.
See, and I think the large casts are good because think about like season 9, I want to say. It's the season where they've got Jules, Bethany, Carol, Luann, Sonia, Ramona, Dorinda.
No, I'm talking like Beverly Hills, how they do like 10 of them. There's like 10 or 12 of them. Like that to me sometimes is like overkill, where you
I
have
think 5 is too few for RHONY.
Agree. I agree.
I think
No, I
I
think
think
they're
they need
good
at
mid.
least 6 or 7. And if they've got a really strong friend of, then that's good too. But
Okay, who are you picking then? Your ultimate, like they have to be like my dream team, RHONY. If Andy Cohen says Ricky, who are you picking for the next season? Who are you picking?
my picks would be, so I'm going for sort of a mix between some of the casts. So it'd have to be Jill, Luann, Kelly, Dorinda, Sonia, Heather, Carol, and Ramona as a friend of.
No, Bethany?
We don't need her. Not with those other people.
Okay. So we're picking dream RHONY cast, right?
Like, and just imagine, we also never saw Kelly get to interact with like Carol or Heather or Dorinda. Like, I would love to see that.
I would too. I would too. Okay. So I'm going to pick my dream team RHONY is going to be Jill, obviously Dorinda. I will pick Kelly. I'm going to think Carol because I loved that Carol brought that cool girl vibe.
I feel like Carol and Kelly could end up being like best friends or
I
something.
do too. I do too. Bethany would have to be my fifth. Sonia and Luann. I'm sorry, Ramona can go. I don't have to have Ramona. And I feel like everybody else, if I'm forgetting, am I forgetting anybody really good?
Well, I like Heather.
Heather
And honestly,
Thompson?
yeah. I mean, also as like some other potential friends of, I wouldn't even mind seeing Tinsley back in there. Or I
And
really like Kristen Takeman too. I didn't really have any problems with her.
she was boring. I mean, she's okay. I mean, I could find somebody way better though than her. Like a friend of Jules was good. I liked Jules a lot. Friend of Ramona could be a friend of, Ramona could pop in here or there, but
I think they need to transition Ramona out. And I think friend of is put her as friend of on the next season, and then
I don't think she'll take it. Like she might be like Vicky and not be okay with the friend of, or like Tamra. Like Tamra was like, no, that's a slap in the face.
It's hard to say. I guess it depends on who else they would have. But she might like that passive income, and like half the time in the newer season, she's always leaving early anyways. She's like, oh, I'm double booked. I'll see ya.
You know what? I hope that they do a third season of Ultimate Girls Trip. Second season's coming up. We're going to get the Dorinda and the Jill vibes there. So I'm super stoked for that. But I'm hoping that they do a third season. I would love to see them throw Kelly in there. I would love to see Kelly come back because they did a lot of housewives that are no longer, on the show. Like with this last one, they did Brandy and Tamra, all the ex-wives, right? So it's like, I would love to see the third season, a mix of current and previous housewives. Like, I think that would be really good. And I actually feel like Kelly's ready for it. Like this might be her time that she's kind of ready to dip her toe back in the housewife scene, because everything we're watching is from 2010. So here we are 12 years later. And I would love to see what they've got kind of going on now, what she's doing now.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, so here's a question. What did you think about the boarding school dispute with Ramona and Luann? That was kind of intense, right?
Yeah, those two should not talk about parenting.
I mean, I kind of felt
that's
like
where it gets so dangerous in like New York City, is like they all have so many opinions on how everyone should be like raising their children.
Yeah,
and none of them should be commenting on it. They always comment on it, but then they also get mad if someone makes a comment about their child rearing.
That's like a general rule as like a parent. You just don't talk about another person's child or their parenting skills. Now, if you are Gia and you have a confessional look and you're now on the show, you're fair game. If you're Brooks Marks and you have a confessional, you are fair game. Like that is the way it rocks with me. Like we're not sitting here talking about Melania and Adriana and, whatever
Gabriella.
Meredith. Yeah, Gabriella and whatever Meredith's daughter's name is, because they don't have confessionals and they're not talking. So, that's just kind of the way I think.
Chloe.
Is that
Chloe
her name?
Marks.
Chloe Marks.
I don't remember. There's also another son too, but I don't remember what his name is.
Yes, he doesn't get shown.
They've never showed him on the show.
Yeah, I saw him I think somewhere on Instagram sometime. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting conversation. And, I also think though that Ramona has a different relationship with her daughter And you even see like they're very close. Her and Ramona and Avery are very close. It's that mother-daughter, you know, single child relationship, as opposed to the Countess, who is raising her children in a more like worldly type of way, if that makes sense.
I thought you were about to say Weekend Mother.
No, I would never. And you know
I
what?
was like, oh,
I really like,
spoiler alert.
no, I really like felt like we saw more of Luann's bond with her kids, like a little bit more with Victoria, like when her daughter came in the door and just like how they embraced and how she missed her mom and how they just like talked before they went, and you know, just like her laying out on the lawn chairs, like they were just holding hands. And I was like, that's really sweet, you know, because at that age, that's a tough age, you know, and not all moms have that with their girls. So I was kind of like, oh, that's great that they've got that bond. They went shopping together and it made Luann excited. That made me smile. She was like, it makes me happy because it's just us. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, I thought that was really sweet. But then Luann's like, back to me, darling. I'm gonna try on all this clothes. And I know you love to watch me try on clothes.
She's so funny about trying on clothes. Like when she also like went with Kelly and she was trying on clothes and Kelly's like, no, I don't try on clothes.
Yeah. And
Like
Kelly did look,
I know that like I'm a model and I'm always like dressed well, but like I don't just like go to stores and try on clothes.
I know. She's like, I hate trying on clothes too, though. So when Kelly said that, I was like, I feel you, girl. So
But seeing Kelly, like even like looking back at pictures of her from like 20 years ago and like even to do today, it's like, well, she probably doesn't have to try anything on because her body looks like it's like stayed pretty consistently the same.
well, she
Like
does
she
the
keeps it
supermodel
tight.
diet.
She's doing the supermodel diet. She's also running with the cabs. So she's staying fit. She
And
looks good.
yeah, she likes to run in the street with all the cabbies and she looks fabulous. That's Kelly's thing. Like she's really into health and fitness and stuff. So I think that that's like part of her brand, you know, being healthy, being strong. I love that we got to see like the, you know, the equestrian side of her. I loved when she did her show and Ramona came and she like ignored Ramona at the
Like 1 minute.
beginning. Yeah. And then she like walked away and Ramona's like, what the hell? And then Ramona's just standing there, you know, it's so funny. Or how about the moment when they all went out dancing and Bethany's hair got like stuck in the fan?
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was so it's funny that we're having the remodeling and everyone has their Hamptons house, but it's like we have Alex and Simon too, who are remodeling but don't have a house in the Hamptons. So like their house is like crazy this season, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the house that they've rent in the Hamptons also, it's like you almost don't even think about houses like that being in the Hamptons. Like, how is someone not like? I feel bad for saying this. It's like I'm not rich or anything like that, people, but it's like you wouldn't expect a house like you'd expect the house to have been like bulldozed and there to be like another house like Luann's on the scene.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting you know, shout out to the producers for that outside view. That was some great, you know, shade. I love that. And then like the lady coming and giving them like massages and the whole Hamptons house experience was wild to say the least.
I think that that's what we're really missing on RHONY these days is like the whole Hamptons culture that existed in the first season. Like everyone but Alex and Bethany had a house in the Hamptons, but Bethany was living at Jill's house like all summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it was a whole different like structure out there because like you also have the whole tennis rivalry that we were seeing. Because like I guess when you're in the Hamptons, you're either riding a horse or you're playing tennis. Like
Yeah.
that's those are the only two options. Like I'm surprised they don't show more like shopping and stuff like that in the Hamptons. But
Well, you said the key word tennis.
yeah, tennis, and it's like it just is so funny to me how seriously they all take the tennis, and like that's what started the whole fight with Jill and Mario. And I think that the medicine that she gave back to Ramona was hilarious by recruiting Simon to be her tennis partner.
Yeah, that was like you couldn't have written that better. Thanks to Bethany for that one for sure, because that was amazing. And then like him in his outfit when they were making fun of his outfit. He's like, I just bought that outfit like 3 days ago. You know, Simon like dodging in the locker room, trying to get out. I was kind of mad that Ramona's friend ruined the surprise. It would have been epic to see Ramona lose her shit, but It was good. It was a good time.
I mean, she was still doing the eyes, so she was losing it.
Oh, she was. That's why, but I mean, like, she didn't give Jill what she wanted, but I love that Jill's like, you know what, let's just have fun with this now, because at this point, because Mario was just so intense and so aggressive and so just like, ew, sit down, stop. Like, you needed your 15 minutes for sure. He was definitely enjoying it. And I loved how Bobby was just like, do I need to say something now? Like, when are you like, because he was like, this is her show. He's not trying to be on the show. And Mario was just so, I feel like Simon is not doing it for the cameras. That is who Simon is. And I feel like he just like is an attention whore, but knows it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's just who he is all the time, no matter if there's cameras there or not. If somebody's looking at him, that's the way he's behaving. But Mario acted differently. I felt like he was, do you agree with that? Like, he was like hungry for it.
Sort of. I mean, I guess I understand at the same time, like just a little bit that like tennis is his thing, and he wasn't gonna like set Jill up with someone bad because he wanted to have fun too.
Yeah, like
Like
he
he
to
wanted
win
it to
against
be
somebody
like a
else.
good game, but also like not where he's playing against some like 20-year-old that can like outrun him and Ramona.
Right. Yeah. I get okay. I guess I take that. Like, I don't think he was trying to sabotage the game by
Yeah.
any means.
I think that he was just getting a little bit too into it. I feel like he should have been like, it's fine. Like maybe I just won't. I don't have to. Why don't you and Ramona play? And like they discussed, like why don't you recruit Luann and Bethany and just have it be a friendly thing?
But then I did get it though at the, when Jill and Mario were kind of going at it a little bit. And then she's like, it should have just been a girls' game. And he's like, no, you guys had a girls' game. Then I came up with the idea to do a doubles match with me and my wife and you and somebody else. Like, this was the whole point for me to set up a match. Like, so I did kind of get his point with that part, like, if you don't want to do it, you should just said no. You agreed to it, but then it turned into a whole thing. And then the guy hurting his back, not being able to come, I was just like, that's what you get, Jill.
Yeah,
But then it
that's
was
hard.
fun. It was fun. And then like, I think that it was a great, great scene. And it was a good reason to get the entire cast together. And that was like a real life, like you can't make that up. They were just dying, like cringing inside their poor Alex.
I
She's
just
probably
love
like,
that they had like the whole crowd there, and I love like this is how we are choosing to like fight our rivalries in early Housewives. Like we're not just gonna like spar like with words. We're gonna get out on the tennis court and we're gonna see who's actually better.
they might as well have just done a dance off at that point.
I know. I would have liked that too.
That'd have been good.
But it's just so funny though. Like back to Alex and Simon, like the remodel that they did, and when Jill came over to see that house.
So eclectic.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's just so weird because we started the season with them so like against each other, but I feel like they kind of like grew on each other again by the end of the season. Her going over to that house and she's like, that house is in shambles. And we saw it already when Bethany went and visited in season 1, but it was even worse this time. Like that room they were living in, I can't.
Yeah.
4 people living in that room.
And I laughed when she was like, you're ruining your clothes. Like, I know you love your clothes and you're smashing your clothes in here. I thought, oh my gosh, that's that tiny little, no more Van Kempen's going to be, born this year. That's what she said.
I mean, I don't know why they didn't just go and stay at his hotel.
I know. I was thinking that too. Maybe because they were trying to like keep the kids, I don't know. I can't even make up anything for that. I was gonna say maybe they're trying to keep the kids grounded, but it's like at that point, they're running through studs and nails and you got to be careful. It was like a danger zone for them. But I do think that the house was very them. I love that they went to Jill's Aaron, or Aaron Fabrics and got their blinds and their curtains there. So, I think it definitely fit them in Brooklyn.
Yeah, the finished product was something else. Like, I don't know, those two to me, like they feel just so very like Adam's family or something.
It's very like guy, for sure. I will say Alex definitely held her own this season though. Like I even in the reunion, she went against Bethany a little bit. She called Bethany a coward. Like one thing I will say about Alex is she's very secure in who she is. And as a person, as a woman, as a mother, as a business person. I think that right there is very commendable, and not a lot of people can say that. And they really, they're secure in who they are as a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex overall is just, she seems like such a nice person, and like she's not saying things that are just super harsh to people. Like with Luann, like you're getting just all kinds of like crazy shit from her. Like, are they going to do heavy retouching on your photos, Bethany?
Yeah,
and she was like,
totally rained
like
on
Alex would never say that. Alex would be asking more of the question like, oh, were you nervous about doing it? Or she would never, I don't know. That's such a rude question to ask.
I know. And Lou said that she was totally having Bethany's back. She was like, I was just worried about Bethany and trying to have her best interest at heart. It's like, no, you weren't. That was shade at its finest hour. She was very excited to share some news with you that, and I don't even think at the time she knew she was going to be on the cover, that she was just being featured on the Social Life magazine. And right there, I think that maybe there was a little jealousy probably that took place at some, and then she got the cover. And then I loved that when they did the red carpet interview, that the editor from Social Life said to Luann, that there was this whole controversy, this editing controversy or whatever she called it. I thought that was so funny. And then and Luann's like, no, never. It's just like, come on, you girls are so
really, darling. I would never.
I love how they said that Luann was condescending too when she calls people darling. And she's like, darling is my thing. I will never not say darling. That's not going to like stop. So you guys are just going to have to get used to that. And I'm like, thank you for being you. Don't stop saying darling, because we need that.
Well, and I do feel like it is actually like half and half. Like sometimes it's meant to be bitchy, and sometimes it's like just her like term of endearment for people.
Yeah. It's like, bless your heart.
Yeah.
So the people in the South, they're not blessing you, baby.
I just love any time when Luann's like, oh, really? Or darling.
Wait, what about her with Bethany when she was saying, like, giving her tips on dating? And she was saying, what did she say? She doesn't think that men like so much being equal with women.
Yeah.
Oh,
what did you think about that dating advice? Would you take any of Luann's dating advice if you were Bethany's age and single?
Absolutely not. Zero way I would take any of that. I'm very curious to like see, is there anything that stuck out, like, from that book that was probably is still relevant today? We need to find just one line in the book that is still relevant to this day. Cause I feel like we got Ramona's rules on how to, date. Then we got Luann's rules on how to date. Then we see Bethany didn't listen to any of them. And then she got with, her own, who is she dating? What's the guy's name? What's his name? He's French on the season. Philippe was his name?
Yeah. Well, did he own Philippe?
Oh, see, there was the first, she went on the date with the guy who was the chef, who I liked. I thought he was sweet. And then she dated the photographer guy.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember what his name is.
Well, let's just call him Philippe. Even if that's not his name, guys, that's what we're going with. So we'll just
wait, it is. Philippe. I think his name is Philippe because they go to Philippe. Maybe. The restaurant Philippe. And I think she makes a joke about I usually like to like date guys named Philippe and take them to a restaurant. I like to take guys to a restaurant that's named after them.
Yeah, so that's when she told him about busting the balls, and he didn't know what she was saying.
Yeah.
She's like, because I like to bust balls. She goes, maybe if I just say the same thing 3 times in a row, you'll understand.
But I do feel like with Bethany, even if she had gotten good dating advice from either Luann or Ramona, and I feel like maybe that truth is somewhere in the middle, I feel like she was still gonna, she's Bethany. She's still gonna date the way she wants to date.
Yeah, she's a character within herself. She was open to advice because she's like, hey, I'm at this age and nothing's working for me, and all these women are around me and they're happily married. But each to their own. You know what we didn't talk about at all, really? The Halloween party that Kelly threw.
Yeah, those were some interesting costumes too. Mm-hmm. Like it's just such, well, the biggest throwback is the Sarah Palin and the moose costume.
Oh my gosh.
Like what a time in the world that was.
I
And then
forgot about that too. When I saw that, I actually laughed out loud. I was like, oh my gosh, these two.
I know, and like it's just funny. I can't. But then we also have Bethany as the roller girl, which I love. Like anytime I think of Bethany, like that's one of the first things that I always think of is the roller
Really?
girl.
That's so
And
we have
then
Kelly ran in the street and then Bethany roller skates backwards in the street. So
yeah, I just thought that was like such a perfect exit and end for the Halloween episode. She's like, "All right, I'm gonna roll on. Bye."
yeah, she's like, bye. Yeah, and then
But
Kelly
Jill
shows up.
had to leave a great party, that her and Ramona were at to get to Kelly's party on time. And Kelly was late, but Kelly, I guess, was at a different party. Or, well, she was saying that she was trick or treating or something like that. But it's sort of funny because it mirrors a conversation that we get much later when it's sort of like Luann's running late. And Bethany's like, well, I've got my child. Like, and that's sort of another thing that Kelly used as an excuse for as to why she was late. She's like, well, we had trick or treating with the girls. Like, I think that Kelly probably thought, like, well, I'm hosting this party, like, and I'll be there eventually, but the party's for everyone else, not just for me.
And it was Halloween. Yep. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. See, look, we'll talk about that. We'll connect those dots once we get to that season. But yes, that is definitely true. I think it was a little bit later in the Bethany and Luann situation, like later at night. But I remember Luann's like, what are you gonna do? Watch her sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Bethany was mad. And that
Well,
was Bethany was a
just would
Victoria's
have
Secret
loved
angel
it.
too. Remember? She was like killing it on that day too. But I loved on this episode, I loved Jill's costume. Her Marie Antoinette was probably outside of because Kelly was banging as a Playboy
Yeah.
bunny. She was banging. So she looked phenomenal. But I loved the Marie Antoinette too. Those are probably my two favorite.
Now, spoiler alert, we do know that Kelly ends up going to do Playboy. Do we think that she was manifesting that for herself, wearing that Playboy bunny outfit?
Or maybe, they saw how great she looked and they were like, all right, you need to, maybe they scouted her. That's all she needed to do. Give them a little preview.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she looked definitely very hot.
Yeah,
Jill's costume was really good as well. And Ramona, I can't remember. She was like Peter Pan or something.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we have Luann dressed as a Native American, which, she would probably say she is Native American and she can dress that way. But it's just such an interesting thing because, like, we get other situations later on in Housewives where people are dressed up as Native Americans, not in RHONY, but in Atlanta, and that part of it ends up being censored, and they put out a statement for it. So it just shows what a change in times it was.
Yep. I mean, we're even seeing that with OC right now, currently, so it's, with, they wouldn't show Tamara's CBD line, right? That's what we were hearing. And now that, this episode, they're microdosing. So it's like, Bravo, they're evolving in some ways. And we got to see really, I know this is not RHONY based, but we got to see something really great this past week with Summer House. We got to see them have a really great conversation on that show. And I feel like the young kids are doing it well. But to see like how things were so different from 2010 to 2022 and what they would produce and push out there from then as opposed to now, it's definitely, so we are commenting on things as if it was 2010. Okay. That is what we're trying to watch it like that. I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to critique every single thing. Cause if I had to critique every inappropriate thing that one of these ladies did, we wouldn't have a show. Then people would just hear me critiquing all day. But that's why we have the Housewives, because it gives us something to talk about, whether the good, the bad, the ugly. It brings it out to the forefront, and it's just fun, right? So,
but that's where there is almost like a certain sense of like irony with Luann, because she's got this whole, the class of the Countess and being, having proper etiquette, but then she's the one that is like, in a lot of ways, the most offensive, because she's making the comment about men don't want women to be their equals. And it's like, well, that's the problem. And then we get her dressing as the Native American, it's just sort of, the irony is not lost on me.
I wonder what she would say, Luann, about that scene, now, today. I'm just curious. I'm just curious. And did it come out the way she intended? She could have very well not meant it to come out that way and maybe just chose her. She did not articulate herself very, well. That's, if you can't use your words properly, then you're not able to express how you're actually feeling. And maybe she was thinking she was being cheeky and she was just being super offensive and inappropriate. And it's like, stop talking right now. Like, would you say that to Victoria? No, you know what I mean? And Victoria was like 13 when this was airing. So it's just interesting. But
it's like, would you want your daughter to think that she's less than a man, or even to pretend like she is?
Exactly. Like that, to me, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a really good season. And we got to see, like I said, a little bit of the harshness with, Luann. We got to see a little bit different side of her. And she was, I think, trying to hold on to her high horse there while she kind of knows that things were crumbling.
Yeah, because I mean, like we mentioned, by the time we get to the reunion, her and the Count are no longer together. He's allegedly with a Nigerian princess. So I think that, I mean, you can pinpoint when you go back and watch these shows when things are starting to turn sour around divorces and stuff like that. The information that they reveal later on, when you watch it back, you're thinking, okay, well, I can see that this is probably why she's saying a lot of these things. And maybe she was saying that men don't like it when women are their equal, because that's how she felt in her marriage with the Count.
Yeah,
she was getting a lot of influence herself and becoming this popular public figure outside of just the charities and whatever aristocracy in society she was running with.
That's true. I mean, that's you project, right? That's project, deflect. That's just kind of the way it goes, especially when you're going through your own traumas that you're trying to keep on the low. Okay, wait. What did you think about Alex and Simon when Simon like lost his cool like a crazy person when they were going to the house for Alex's birthday?
I thought that was one of the lamest things ever, mostly because it's like, you fucking ruined the surprise, and it's like the surprise is going home to the fucking kids. Like,
I know. And the fact that he was
take me to the Plaza Hotel. Like, if I noticed that we're like driving, like, oh wait, why did we never end up crossing the bridge? Like, where are we going? It's like, well, surprise, we're going home to the kids. That's not what I would want to hear.
No, it was just, the whole thing was just so weird to me and odd and off-putting. And I was like, okay, I can't believe you're talking to a driver like that. Like, you're screaming at him. Second of all, Alex, why aren't you saying anything to your husband and telling him, shut up, don't talk to, stop, enough, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like the whole scene just made me uncomfortable. I didn't like it.
Well, and also it's like, Alex isn't stupid. She knows you're in Brooklyn. Like, how big of a surprise can it be? She knows what her neighborhood looks like.
Exactly. It's not like she's going to be, I don't know. It's just the whole thing. It's like, there's one bridge or there's two bridges, right? But it's like, okay, well, when you're going to Brooklyn, we're not going fine dining. We're not going to the, the best of the best restaurant. I'm probably going to be going to my neighborhood. He could
like, she was probably wanting to be like Ramona in that moment. I don't want to eat in Brooklyn.
No, that's what I don't want to eat in Brooklyn. That's amazing. I love that. So that whole thing was a little eek to me, very off-putting. But I will say that outside of that, I thought Alex had a really good season, and
and that wasn't even really bad on her. Like, I feel like it was mostly just embarrassing for her that Simon was acting like that.
Yeah, because he's a reflection of her. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I mean, regardless, husband, you can't control your husband, right? You can't control somebody's actions, but you can definitely attempt to influence. And I felt like there was zero attempts to influence, better behavior in that moment. But who knows? Maybe she thought she was driving up to a huge diamond, and so she didn't want to, and then she realized she's going home. She's like, all that for this.
Yeah. Well, and then and I've mentioned this before, but the way those two interact is just so wild. Like, we get to the finale and we're dancing at this charity like you're like it kind of like it was like, is this how Mauricio and Kyle Richards like had sex at a gala? Because this is sort of feels like how this is going.
Yeah,
Like,
no, 100%. Like, wait, what did Gloria say about them earlier in the season? She's like, wait, they walk as one, but they can't do this. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like dying laughing that even Jill's mom knows that they cannot even be apart from each other for 1 second. And yes, and she was all leaned back on him and he was all feeling up on
like
her.
the way that he was like
On her.
grabbing her boobs, and like I loved when they showed that at the reunion. Bethany's like, "Wow."
Good times. Yeah. So, I mean, and then, okay, so that's how we ended the season, right? With,
Yeah, Alex and Simon were probably the only ones really having a good time at that charity event.
I think that they were, the drinks were definitely flowing, I'm sure, for them because they were in their own little world, but there was a lot that led up to it, right? We touched on it a bit earlier. We had Ramona and Jill bickering because they, first of all, we saw them fighting from planning it, right? Saying it's tacky to put up your own merchandise, to put up your own signage, your own sponsorships, and Jill's like, I'll write a check. And Ramona's like, well, then I'll write a check too. We see that then kind of pick back up when they're setting up for the event. And
because they're like, did you give her the check? Yeah, I gave her the check.
And she's like, why do you keep asking me? She's like, because I don't believe you, because I think you're a liar. That's why, and it just.
And she's like, Janet, didn't I give you the check? And she's like, yeah. She's like, see, Janet says I gave her the check.
Yeah, she's like, well, I don't believe you. Yeah, I know. And then the guy's like laughing. The guy that's there with Jill starts laughing. I know, that's so good. And then we see Bethany's not there, right? So then we see Ramona put something in Jill's head about Bethany. I can't say that I necessarily blame Ramona for that part being put in Jill's head. Like, Ramona may have thrown something out to see if it stuck, but Jill's the one that got in her own mind a little bit, I think. And that was like, is she really my friend? Why was she keeping that opportunity from me? Like, it was this big master plan to go against Jill. And Jill admits it at the reunion. She's like, then I start to spiral and then like I get crazy, right? But it was like, but it made me so sad because that's not how she rolls.
I don't know. I'm not going to fully disagree, but I do feel like now that we know a little bit more about Bethany and, spoiler alert again, but when we get to the later seasons, anytime you're at her house, like you would think that you're like skinny girl, like the skinny girl grocery store, like there's like bottles of things, packages of popcorn. She's got blenders. She's got the car. She's got
like
so
Bethany in the grocery store. We didn't even talk about that. Bethany trying to give out her cookies and
yeah.
We
where go from like Bethany not even being able to give away things to that. But
so maybe that's just me like trying to say like I would never do that. So I like, no, she wouldn't do that. They're friends. Like maybe she was. Oh no.
I think that I don't know that it was necessarily malicious or meant to leave other people out of it, but I think that she thought I secured the bar. So the bar is my space because I got the bar.
Yeah. And can I also say this though?
Like if you got the music, you can have your sign on the DJ booth.
Well, but
I got the bar.
Right. But I was kind of thinking it's also alcohol. Like it's for her skinny girl margarita and the Frangelico signage was up there. That's also an alcohol. If Ramona and Jill were on the step and repeat, like they were talking about that, you know what I mean? Then, and if was Skinny Girl not on the step and repeat? Because if Skinny Girl was on the step and repeat too, I get it. It's like, you want to be fair across the board, but either Jill thought it, and obviously then she thought it wasn't true because she retracted her statement, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I would ask her that same question again the next season if I had the opportunity. Like, do you think it was still intentional? But I mean, it's just like the beginnings of like the cracks in like their relationship this season. Mm-hmm. And it's really only towards like the area with the charity to realize it. But, it's something Ramona said too about Bethany is Jill only likes Bethany because she's the underdog. She said that to her earlier in the season too.
Ramona planting seeds.
Changes her mind about how she feels that next season.
Yeah. You know, I feel like there's growing pains with all of these ladies, and it, it is definitely, I think, a fight for who is the top dog in the group, even though they'll never say that. The one thing that I love now, like current, recent, like the tail end of RHONY, they definitely embraced being an ensemble a lot more than they did in the first seasons. And you really see the struggle for top dog in the first couple seasons with the ladies as they're kind of growing and coming into their own. And I think that some of them are threatened by how fast and furious Bethany's coming up.
Oh, she comes up real fast.
Yeah, it's like insane to kind of rewatch. I'm like, wow, just your first spread in a magazine, boom, you're on the cover, boom, you've got then you see the deal. Somebody wants to do a deal with me to do Skinny Girl Margaritas. Like, it actually, we see it happening in front of us, and she doesn't even know what is about to unfold for her. You hear her say, I don't even know. I don't even really need a house in the Hamptons. And it's like, oh, honey, just wait.
Like, soon you're gonna have a pretty amazing house in the Hamptons.
Yeah, but I mean, we ended the season with the charity. I think we had a really good reunion. I feel like people got to talk about what they wanted to talk about. I feel like there was a slight pile up on Kelly a little bit at the end that I kind of was like, I didn't really like that. But then
I sort of felt like that was almost, in a way, Jill and Luann trying to help protect Bethany in some ways. Or at least that's how it was with Jill. Luann, I think, had her own beef because Luann, I think, and until Kelly came in, Luann was probably like the most successful in like the socialite world, if you know what I mean. Like, she was a countess, so like everyone would want the countess at her party. Season 1 was about everyone trying to be the countess's friend, and Jill loved being like the countess. And even at the reunion this season, sometimes she's like, Luann, I mean, the countess.
Yeah.
But I feel like Kelly stepped in and like really challenged her for that position, because Kelly's like, I don't need a title. I'm Kelly Lauren Ben Simone.
Yep. And then also when she said she liked Jill the best in the group, Luann was really hurt by that. Luann's like, if I didn't just say what I said, you would have said me. You would have said I was your favorite. So, and we know that they're great friends now. And so it's fun to kind of watch and just see them develop. But it was definitely, I feel like Alex was a great middle ground for that. She tried to clarify between the ladies, between Bethany and Kelly. And she, used very limited amount of words for all of these ladies to say, look, this is how you felt. This is how you felt. You should have said this. You should have said this, but we did it. And here we are. Let's move forward for another season. And I was like feeling Alex in the reunion. So I feel like the season ended strong with some closure, right? Like, I feel like they were like, did they go have dinner after the reunion together?
Very hard to say. I felt like that for the most part they were all on good terms. I mean, aside from maybe Kelly and Bethany, but I feel like those who wanted some sort of resolution came away with it.
Yeah,
and people, like, they were able to get the things off of their chest. I feel like, I don't know, it was just the time of RHONY in the second season was just such a great period, and I feel like the friendships, like, they actually did want to be friends, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
And the rivalries that they had were, I love those rivalries compared to any other city, because it's like New York society is its own thing. So like, you actually are sort of competing for something, not just top dog on like a TV show when you live in like New Jersey. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's a vibe. I mean, we already said the Hamptons is another character within this show and in the city as well. So I think that it was a fantastic season 2, and I am like so stoked to just binge season 3 now. because I mean, I feel like we're just getting like a taste of like the real goodness now, you know, like now it's starting to really like ramp up. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So all of you are going to have to start watching season 3 now because it is longer. It's a
How many
really
episodes do
good
we have?
season. I think we're up to about 18 or 20 now.
Okay. All right.
March is a longer month, so you got
Yes.
a little bit longer. But you know, we love having these chats with each other, and we hope that you guys like them too. We're going to work on putting out some other housewife content. As you can see just from this conversation, we like a lot of other housewives as well, but you know, we can't wait to talk to everyone on our next IG live. And we hope that you also tuned in earlier this week for our interview with Kelly Lauren Ben Simone.
Yes. So stay tuned. We're going to have some more fun guests maybe popping up. And, you know, we'll make sure that we're posting everything on all of our other platforms. So you'll get to, you know, listen to us on either YouTube if you want to watch through there, you know, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. So anywhere on any of your podcast platforms where you can listen. And until next time, guys.
Peace.
See ya.